Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's had a good day so far. Sorry about no D&D for the past few weeks. We've been getting sick around Monday time, so we may change to a different day. Who knows? We just wait for us to get better. But hopefully we'll be back with our regular Curses Strahd setting next Monday. That's the plan anyway. So in the meantime, I figured I might as well try to see if I can't finish up this Halloween game that I started back on Halloween. So it's a bit past spooky time of season, but it's still in the fall. So I figured it wouldn't hurt much. First thing I need to do is say I do not own the copyright to the music. It's Battlestar Galactica. I do not own the copyright. I don't claim to own the copyright or anything like that. I'm just using it for background noise. Um, that's it. So let's get a summary of what happened last game. Please give me a summary of episode 2 of the Chat GPT Halloween 24 game.
ChatGPT Halloween 24 Episode 2 Summary. In this episode, Simon delved deeper into the mysterious chamber, where he purified the Wraith's lantern and uncovered several key items, including a dark crystal, a ritual dagger, and a scroll of banishment. Simon also gained insight into his quest by channeling the energy from a glowing crystal, enhancing the Wraith's lantern and gaining temporary hit points. As Simon investigated the statues, he activated their magic by shining the lantern on them, learning that they are guardians of the village and can be empowered by the lantern's light. The power of the lantern also led him to uncover a hidden compartment, revealing the dark crystal and other items of importance. After meditating on the visions he received from the crystal, Simon made his way through a wooden door, discovering a narrow corridor with footprints, flickering torches, and a fork in the path. The choice of direction awaits, with murmurs echoing from the right path. Key events: Simon purified the Wraith's lantern and investigated the statues. He gained magical enhancements from the crystal and the lantern, found a dark crystal, a ritual dagger, and a scroll of banishment. The discovery of a new corridor with a choice of paths ahead. The episode ended with Simon at a fork in the corridor, ready to continue his exploration. Let me know if you'd like more details or to continue.
Start episode 3. Come at it like I haven't played in a week or two.
Chat GPT Halloween 24 Episode 3. The air is still and thick with tension as Simon stands at the fork in the corridor. The faint murmurs grow louder from the right path, but the left path remains cloaked in darkness. The flickering torches on the walls cast long shadows, and the stone floors are covered in a thin layer of dust, disturbed only by the recent passage of those who came before him. With the Wraith's lantern in hand, glowing brightly as ever, Simon feels the weight of his journey pressing on him. The dark crystal, the ritual dagger, the scroll of banishment, and the silver brooch he found earlier. All of these items have come together in his quest. But the road ahead is uncertain. As Simon stands at this crossroads, he recalls the visions he saw: the cursed village, the restless spirits, the dark figure lurking in the shadows, waiting to reclaim the Wraith's lantern. The whispers from the lantern have quieted for now, and the soft echo of his footsteps fills the corridor as he contemplates his next move. Options ahead: 1. Take the right path, follow the murmurs, and investigate what lies ahead in the direction that calls out to Simon. 2. Take the left path, explore the darker, quieter passage, which might offer fewer clues but could be a safer route. 3. Examine the footprints. Take a closer look at the footprints leading down the corridor to see if they offer any new information. What will Simon do next?
He will investigate the footprints.
Simon crouches down, carefully examining the footprints in the dust on the corridor floor. His eyes narrow as he studies the pattern and depth of the prints, trying to determine their origin. The footprints are fresh, their edges not yet dulled by time, indicating that someone or something passed through here not long ago. They appear to be the marks of boots, but the weight distribution seems uneven, suggesting the person may have been carrying something heavy or unbalanced. There's a subtle dragging motion to one of the prints, as if the person was struggling or wounded. Following the path of the footprints, Simon sees that they lead towards the right path, the one where the murmurs seem to emanate from. The footprints don't veer off, and there are no signs of any sudden changes in direction. It's clear that someone traveled this way with purpose, perhaps even anticipating the presence of the Wraith's lantern. Simon also notices the faintest trace of smoke in the air, mingling with the usual dampness of the stone, which could mean the torchlight ahead is connected to the lingering presence of whoever passed through here. What does Simon do next?
Simon will investigate the left corridor.
Simon turns away from the right path and moves towards the left corridor, the darkness ahead enveloping him as the faint murmur of voices recedes. The Wraith's lantern casts its glow ahead, illuminating the rough hewn stone walls, and the air here is noticeably cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and age. The corridor narrows slightly, and the floor feels more uneven, as though this passage has been less traveled. The silence here is almost oppressive, and the usual sounds of the village are replaced by the occasional drip of water echoing through the stone. As Simon moves forward, he notices: 1. Ancient symbols. The walls are adorned with faded markings, similar to the protective runes he encountered earlier. These symbols appear older, worn by time, and possibly untouched for centuries. The deeper he moves, the more these symbols seem to pulse faintly in the light of the lantern. 2. Another fork. After a few paces, the corridor forks again, one path leading upward, the other continuing straight ahead into deeper darkness. The upward path is steep, and Simon can feel a subtle draft coming from above. An unseen presence. The longer Simon lingers in this corridor, the more he feels a subtle sensation, as if something or someone is just out of sight. It's a cold, almost oppressive feeling, like the presence of an unseen watcher. But when he looks around, there's no one there. What does Simon do next?
He checks the path leading into the darkness for traps. I should have to roll for this.
Please roll an investigation check to check the path leading into the darkness for any traps or hidden dangers. Let me know the result.
Simon rolled a 23.
With a roll of 23, Simon carefully inspects the path leading deeper into the darkness, his eyes scanning every inch of the corridor for signs of traps or hidden dangers. He notices several subtle clues that indicate this path may be hazardous. 1. Hidden pressure plates. Beneath a layer of dust, Simon spots the faint outlines of pressure plates in the floor, strategically placed to trigger mechanisms if disturbed. He is able to avoid them, ensuring he won't set them off as he moves forward. 2. Worn rope. In one corner near the ceiling, Simon spots a thin, worn rope, likely part of a tripwire mechanism. It looks like it could trigger something dangerous if activated, such as spikes or a sudden drop. 3. Faint scratches on the walls. The walls are slightly scratched in places, as though something or someone has been dragged against them. This could indicate that the path was once used for something far more sinister, perhaps to transport prisoners or captives. Despite these dangers, Simon feels confident that with his keen awareness, he can safely navigate this corridor, though he'll need to be cautious. What does Simon do next?
Simon will continue down the passageway, avoiding the pressure plates.
Simon carefully steps forward, skillfully avoiding the pressure plates and tripwires as he moves deeper into the passageway. The Wraith's lantern's glow illuminates his path, and he maintains a keen awareness of the surroundings, taking extra care with each step. The passage narrows as he moves deeper, and the air grows cooler. The faint scent of damp stone fills his nostrils as the corridor stretches onward, leading him into the unknown. The walls seem to close in slightly, and the silence of the passage is only broken by the soft sound of his footsteps. Eventually, the passage opens up into a larger chamber, its size hard to gauge due to the low light. The Wraith's lantern casts elongated shadows across the room, and Simon notices several key features. 1. A stone door. On the far side of the room stands a large, intricately carved stone door, its surface covered in faded symbols. It looks ancient, almost like a barrier that has been undisturbed for centuries. The door appears to be the only exit from this room. Number 2. A gathering of light. The center of the room is illuminated by an unnatural flickering light, almost like a small fire or some form of spectral presence. The light pulses, drawing Simon's attention, and the shadows around it seem to twist unnaturally. A pair of statues. On either side of the room, two statues stand, larger than any others Simon has encountered. They are worn, but their features are still visible. Fierce protectors with sword and shield, their expressions carved with a look of eternal vigilance. What does Simon do next?
Simon gets a drink next. So I'll be right back and we'll continue.
As Simon holds the broken piece of the statue, its intricate carvings now more significant than ever, up to the flickering light in the room, he watches carefully for any change. The moment the broken arm of the statue comes within the glow, the light flickers more intensely, as if it recognizes the fragment of the guardian. The light pulses, its flickering becoming steadier, and Simon feels a surge of energy flow through the statue fragment in his hand. The piece seems to resonate with the energy in the room, its warmth increasing as if it is bonding with the light itself. Suddenly, the two statues in the room shift slightly in response, their stone eyes glowing faintly, and a deep rumbling voice echoes through the chamber, though no one is visible to speak. The guardians awaken. The light shall guide the way, but the darkness must be faced. The stone door on the far side of the room vibrates lightly, and a faint creak suggests it may now be accessible. But Simon feels a weight on his chest, a sense of responsibility as the guardians stir. The light in the room continues to pulse, awaiting Simon's next move. What does Simon do next? Simon stands still, watching the statues with intense focus, feeling the hum of energy in the air. The statues remain motionless at first, their eyes glowing faintly in the light of the wraith's lantern. The room is silent, save for the subtle pulse of the flickering light in the center. Then, after a few moments of tense waiting, the statue's stone arms begin to shift. They move slowly, almost imperceptibly, but with a noticeable grinding sound, as if they are awakening from a long slumber. The statues lift their weapons, one holding a shield and the other a sword, each positioning them in a protective stance, as if preparing for a battle. The air grows heavier with magic as they seem to sense Simon's presence, acknowledging his connection with the broken piece of the statue. Another deep voice, echoing like thunder in the chamber, speaks once more. You have chosen the path of the guardian. The darkness tests you now. Be ready. With that, the flickering light intensifies, and the stone door ahead rumbles as if beginning to open, though it has not yet fully moved. The guardians stand watch, their magical energy now aligned with Simon's. It seems the door will not fully open until Simon makes his next move, whether to approach it, wait for something more to happen, or take another action. What will Simon do next? Please roll an investigation check to carefully examine the stone door for any traps or hidden mechanisms. Let me know the result. With a natural 20 and a total of 25, Simon meticulously examines the stone door, using his expertise to detect any traps or hidden mechanisms. His eyes scan every inch of the ancient surface, taking note of the intricate carvings and subtle changes in the stone. He uncovers several important details. 1. Pressure plate mechanism. At the base of the door, Simon identifies a faintly visible pressure plate, cleverly hidden beneath a thin layer of dust. It's likely connected to a trap that could trigger the door to slam shut or activate something dangerous if disturbed. 2. Hidden release mechanism. On the side of the door, Simon spots a small, almost imperceptible latch, which likely controls the opening mechanism. It seems that the door could be opened manually without triggering the pressure plate, but it will require careful handling. 3. Magical energy. There's also a faint magical aura surrounding the carvings around the door's edges. These runes are connected to ancient protective magic, likely to either ward off intruders or protect whatever lies beyond. While they don't appear to be harmful in themselves, they may react to the lantern's light or Simon's actions. With these findings, Simon can proceed with caution to open the door without triggering any traps. What does Simon do next? As Simon holds the Wraith's lantern up to the doorframe, its radiant light floods the area, illuminating the ancient runes and carvings along the edges of the stone door. At first, the symbols remain static, their faint glow undisturbed. Then something happens. The runes begin to shift under the light, changing subtly, as if responding to the lantern's power. The faded markings glow brighter and more defined, and the language becomes clearer. The writing forms into a more readable script, though it is still cryptic. To proceed, one must face the darkness within. The lantern will guide you, but the shadows test your resolve. As the symbols shift, the stone door seems to react, the runes around the frame glowing more intensely, and Simon feels there's a slight vibration in the air, like the chamber itself is coming alive. The stone door now seems ready to open, but there's a lingering sense of foreboding, a reminder that the path ahead will not be easy. What does Simon do next? With careful precision, Simon steps toward the stone door, making sure to avoid the hidden pressure plate at the base. The light of the Wraith's lantern guides him as he approaches, illuminating the now glowing runes around the doorway. As he moves into position, the door begins to shift open on its own, as if recognizing Simon's intent. The stone slides smoothly, revealing the passage beyond. The sound of grinding stone echoes slightly in the chamber, but no traps are triggered and the path is clear. Beyond the doorway, Simon sees 1. A long corridor. The passage stretches before him, lit by faint, ethereal lights that flicker from sconces along the walls. The corridor feels unusually still, almost like a tomb, silent and forgotten. 2. Ancient carvings. The walls of the corridor are covered in faded carvings that seem to depict a battle between light and darkness. Some scenes show a figure wielding a glowing artifact similar to the Wraith's lantern, while others depict shadowy figures, likely the spirits Simon has encountered. 3. A strange hum. There is a subtle hum in the air, a faint resonance that vibrates beneath Simon's feet. It seems like something powerful lies ahead. 4. A door at the end. The passage leads to another door, larger and more ornate than the one Simon just passed through. Unlike the stone door behind him, this one appears to be made of blackened wood, with intricate designs carved into its surface, emanating an almost malevolent energy. With his senses heightened, Simon stands at the threshold of this new passage, ready to face whatever lies ahead. What does Simon do next? As Simon raises the wraith's lantern, he focuses its light on the ancient carvings that adorn the walls of the corridor. The glow from the lantern casts long, ethereal shadows, causing the carvings to seem almost alive as the light shifts across them. As the light touches the stone, the carvings begin glow faintly, revealing more details than Simon initially noticed. He examines the scenes with growing clarity. 1. Battle between light and darkness. The carvings depict a grand battle between a figure wielding a glowing artifact, likely the Wraith's lantern, and a massive swarm of shadowy creatures. The scenes are detailed, showing the lantern's light pushing back against the darkness, but the darkness seems to regroup, always returning. 2. A connection to the village. One of the carvings shows ancient guardians, similar to the statues Simon encountered earlier, holding shields and swords, standing beside the figure wielding the lantern. It's clear that these guardians were protectors of the village and the lantern, perhaps offering their power to prevent the spirits from being corrupted. 3. A glimpse of the dark figure. In the later carvings, Simon notices a shadowy figure standing apart from the battle, watching from the distance. This figure seems to represent the malevolent force that Simon saw in his visions, the one plotting to reclaim the Wraith's lantern for itself. 4. A key insight. The final scene is different from the rest. It shows the figure with the lantern standing in front of a blackened door, much like the one Simon is approaching. The figure is holding the lantern high, and the light seems to be piercing through the darkness surrounding the door, as if the door itself is a seal that must be broken with the lantern's power. The carvings seem to be hinting at the next step in Simon's journey, that the blackened door ahead holds the key to the final confrontation, and that the Wraith's lantern is the tool that will allow him to break the seal or open the way. What does Simon do next? Please roll an investigation check to examine the blackened door for traps or hidden mechanisms. Let me know the result. With a roll of 13, Simon carefully inspects the blackened door, running his fingers along its surface and examining the intricate carvings. While the door seems old and worn, he notices several potential hazards. 1. Hidden lock mechanism. Simon spots a faint outline of a locking mechanism embedded in the door frame, almost invisible unless closely inspected. It doesn't seem to be a conventional lock, but more like an arcane seal that could trigger a response if tampered with incorrectly. 2. Symbol of warning. A faint sigil is etched into the wood just above the handle. The design looks like a warding rune, meant to deter unauthorized access. The rune hums faintly under Simon's touch, suggesting it may activate when pressure is applied to the door. 3. No immediate traps. While there are no visible mechanical traps like pressure plates or tripwires, the arcane nature of the lock and sigil makes it clear that tampering with this door could trigger magical defenses or release something dangerous. With this information, Simon understands that the blackened door might not be easily opened without some preparation or knowledge of the arcane protections it holds. What does Simon do next? With a roll of 16, Simon concentrates on the arcane sigil, focusing the light of the Wraith's lantern on it. The runes seem to respond to the lantern's glow, the magic within them vibrating slightly under the light. As he examines the sigil, Simon can discern the following: 1. Warding magic. The sigil is a warding rune, meant to protect whatever lies beyond the door. It is designed to prevent unauthorized access and would likely activate in response to any attempt to open the door without the correct key or incantation. 2. Weakness in the seal. Simon notices that there is a weak point in the arcane seal, a small gap in the pattern that suggests it could be broken or bypassed. The Wraith's lantern, with its connection to light and spirits, might be the key to unlocking it. However, Simon must be careful. If he forces the door open incorrectly, it could trigger a magical trap or release the dark presence he sensed. 3. The need for the lantern's power. The sigil seems to recognize the Wraith's lantern as a potential key, and Simon feels that if he channels more of its light or energy toward the rune, he might be able to weaken the seal enough to open the door without triggering any traps. Simon has a clear opportunity to use the lantern to attempt to bypass the seal. What does Simon do next? Simon focuses the Wraith's lantern, directing its radiant light onto the weak point of the arcane sigil. The glow from the lantern intensifies as he channels its energy, and the sigil begins to shimmer, reacting to the light in a way that feels both ancient and alive. The light of the lantern cuts through the dark aura surrounding the seal, and Simon feels a brief moment of resistance, like the very air around him is pushing back. However, with his determination and the power of the lantern, the sigil finally cracks. The faint hum of arcane energy dissipates, and the seal on the door breaks apart, leaving a now unlocked doorframe behind. The blackened door creaks open slowly, revealing the space beyond. A rush of cool air flows through the newly opened threshold, carrying with it the scent of stale stone and the faintest hint of decay. Inside, Simon can see 1. A darkened chamber. The room beyond is shrouded in a deep, oppressive shadow. It's hard to make out any specific details from the doorway, but the air feels heavy, like something ancient and powerful resides within. 2. A flicker of movement. In the dim light, Simon notices a faint, shifting shadow near the far side of the room, as though something is watching him, or perhaps even moving in the shadows. 3. A pulsing energy. In the center of the room, Simon feels a strong pulse of energy, like a heartbeat. It is chaotic and unsettling, as if something powerful is tied to the room, and perhaps to the curse that plagues the village. The door is now fully open, and Simon is on the cusp of entering the chamber. What does Simon do next? As Simon opens the Wraith's lantern to reveal its full, radiant light, the chamber ahead is bathed in a brilliant, almost blinding glow. The light pushes back the darkness in the room, illuminating the space with its ethereal brilliance. The shadows retreat, and for a moment, Simon can see clearly into the chamber. As he steps forward, entering the room, he notices 1. A broken altar. At the center of the room lies a broken altar, its pieces scattered across the floor, cracked and weathered. The remains of ancient offerings, Tattered cloths, crushed candles, and broken vessels are scattered around it. The altar seems to have once held a great deal of power, but it has been defiled or destroyed over time. 2. A shadowy figure. In the far corner of the room, standing in the deepest shadow, is a tall figure cloaked in darkness. The figure's form flickers slightly as though it isn't entirely solid, its presence more a manifestation of darkness and malevolence than a physical being. As the light from the lantern falls on it, the figure steps forward, and Simon can feel the weight of its gaze, even from this distance. 3. The pulsing energy. The source of the pulsing energy seems to be coming the broken altar. A dark crystal, much like the one Simon has, is embedded in the center of the altar's ruins. It radiates chaotic, unstable energy, and Simon can sense that it's linked to the curse that has plagued the village. Number 4. The room's unease. Despite the power of the lantern's light, Simon feels a rising sense of unease. The shadows in the room still linger, reluctant to fully dissipate, and the energy in the air is thick with the presence of something ancient and powerful. The figure in the corner steps into the light, revealing its face, or what used to be a face. It is a hollow, featureless mask, as if it is neither living nor dead. The figure speaks, its voice echoing in Simon's mind rather than through the air. So, you've come to claim what is mine. The lantern can only lead you so far, mortal. What will you do with the light when darkness calls your name? What does Simon do next? As Simon's voice echoes through the chamber, the figure in the corner remains eerily still for a moment. The energy in the room seems to shift, and the shadows grow thicker, swirling around the figure as if reacting to Simon's words. The dark crystal embedded in the broken altar pulses erratically, sending a ripple of energy through the room. The figure finally speaks again, its voice a distorted whisper in Simon's mind. Release them? You think you can end what has been etched in stone for centuries? You are a fool. The darkness cannot be so easily undone. The village is mine, as it always has been, and now you are here. The final piece. The figure takes a step forward, its form growing more solid as it moves from the shadows into the full light of the Wraith's lantern. Its once vague shape is now unmistakably clear. A tall, cloaked figure with a mask like face, almost skeletal, radiating an aura of ancient malice. The room grows colder, and Simon feels a chill creep up his spine as the figure moves closer. The energy in the room shifts again, as if the darkness is reacting to Simon's presence, almost like it recognizes him as a threat. The figure raises a hand, and the air around Simon grows thick with oppressive force, as if trying to weigh him down. You hold the lantern, yes, but you do not understand its true power. You think light can banish the darkness? The light is part of the very curse that binds this place. You cannot free them, Simon. You can only join them. What does Simon do next? As Simon focuses the full light of the Wraith's lantern on the dark crystal embedded in the broken altar, the air crackles with energy. The pulse of chaotic energy from the crystal intensifies, its chaotic hum resonating with the light from the lantern. The room seems to shudder, as if reacting to the clash of these two opposing forces. light and darkness. The crystal glows brightly, its dark aura mixing with the pure light of the lantern. At first, nothing happens, just the oppressive hum of power filling the room. But then, slowly, the crystal begins to shatter. Cracks appear along its surface, splitting it open in jagged lines. A dark mist begins to pour from the cracks, swirling and twisting around the room, as though the very essence of the curse is being drawn into the light. The shadows recoil, but they do not dissipate completely. Instead, they gather around the figure in the corner, coalescing into a dark form. The figure laughs, a sound that is both hollow and mocking, its voice amplified in Simon's mind. You think this will break the curse? You are playing into my hands. The darkness is not something you can simply destroy with light. You've awakened something far worse. As the crystal continues to crumble, the room's temperature drops dramatically, and the shadows grow more aggressive, swirling around Simon and pressing in from every side. The figure, now fully illuminated by the lantern's light, begins to shift, its body becoming more ethereal, less solid, as if it were a specter tied to the very fabric of this place. The darkness is not retreating, it's gathering strength, as though the destruction of the crystal is feeding it. Simon feels a sudden surge of magical energy emanating from the Wraith's lantern, but it's chaotic, difficult to control. The light pulses erratically, and Simon is faced with a moment of choice. He could attempt to focus the lantern's power, drawing out its full potential, or risk losing control as the energy spins out of balance. What does Simon do next? Simon steadies himself, his grip firm around the Wraith's lantern, and with deliberate focus, he begins to channel all of the lantern's energy. He allows the light to grow, expanding its radius and intensity, concentrating on the crystal's dark core. As the energy flows from the lantern, it becomes increasingly volatile, crackling and humming, the tension between light and darkness palpable in the air. The room reacts to Simon's efforts. The shadows that once seemed like separate entities now swirl violently, coalescing into a singular dark force, pressing in from all sides. Yet Simon persists, pushing the lantern's power forward, feeling the raw force of magic surge through him. Slowly, the lantern's light begins to coalesce into a coherent beam, focused and direct, converging on the crystal's now broken core. The dark mist that had poured from the crystal begins to twist and writhe, as though being pulled back, the connection between the curse and the room weakening. The figure, its form now fully ethereal, raises its hands, seemingly attempting to channel the remaining power of the darkness. But it is too late. The light from the lantern overwhelms the shadows, and a brilliant flash erupts from the lantern, piercing the darkness and sending a shockwave throughout the chamber. The crystal, already shattered, explodes into shards of light, the pieces dissolving into nothingness as the final remnants of the curse are swept away. The oppressive energy that had filled the room begins to dissipate, and the figure falters, its form losing definition, becoming more insubstantial. For a moment, everything is still. The shadows that had once been pervasive are now reduced to mere whispers in the corners, retreating into the cracks and crevices of the room. The pulsing energy that had once filled the chamber with dread is silenced, and the oppressive weight that Simon had felt throughout his journey lifts. However, the figure does not entirely disappear. With a final, defiant whisper, the figure speaks, though its voice is now weakened, its presence faltering. The light may have won today, but this is not the end. Darkness always returns. The figure's form dissipates, leaving behind an echo of its malevolent energy, but it is no longer an immediate threat. The room is now illuminated, and Simon feels the weight of his success. The curse is broken. The spirits trapped within the village, bound to the darkness, are now free. The path ahead is clear, though the figure's final words echo in his mind, reminding him that the battle against darkness is never truly over. What does Simon do next? With the oppressive darkness now lifted and the figure vanquished, Simon takes a moment to breathe in the stillness of the room. The faint echoes of the battle fade away, and the flickering light of the Wraith's lantern casts a soft glow across the space, revealing new details he hadn't noticed before. As Simon searches the room, he notices several items of interest scattered throughout the area. One, a broken chalice. In the corner of the room, near the shattered altar, Simon finds a broken ash silver chalice. It's dented and cracked, but still carries an air of elegance. The chalice seems to have once been a ritualistic item, perhaps used in the ceremonies tied to the curse. It might hold some value, though it is damaged. 2. Fragments of the dark crystal. The shards of the dark crystal that had once pulsed with malevolent energy lie scattered around the altar. While they may not be as potent as before, some of them still carry a faint, magical aura. These fragments might be useful for later purposes, either in crafting or as a potential source of power. 3. A mysterious tome. Amidst the ruins of the altar, Simon uncovers an old leather-bound tome. The cover is faded, and the pages inside are brittle, but the book seems to contain arcane knowledge. It is written in a language Simon does not immediately recognize, though he senses it may be tied to the dark rituals or the history of the curse. This tome could hold valuable information. 4. A spirit's token. Near the statue fragments, Simon finds a small amulet in the shape of a crescent moon, similar to the one he's seen before. This token feels imbued with a light, protective energy and might be of significance to the village's guardians or to Simon's quest. It may also have personal importance or enhance his connection to the spirits that he freed. 5. A heavy chest. At the far side of the room, partially obscured by debris, Simon discovers a wooden chest that appears to have once been locked. It is now open, its contents exposed. Inside, he finds gold coins, a few precious gems, and an ornate dagger with a jagged hilt. The dagger's craftsmanship stands out, suggesting it may be a ceremonial weapon or a valuable artifact in its own right. Simon now has a few valuable items to consider. Some could help him on his journey, others may serve as treasures or clues to further mysteries yet to be uncovered. What does Simon do next? Simon carefully gathers the items he found: the broken chalice, the fragments of the dark crystal, the mysterious tome, the crescent moon amulet, and the contents of the chest, including the gold coins, precious gems, and the ornate dagger. He places everything securely into his pouch and makes sure the Wraith's lantern is properly in hand, its light still shining brightly, now that the oppressive darkness has been lifted. As Simon turns to leave the chamber, he feels a sense of completion. The spirits are freed, the curse lifted, and the oppressive shadows that once filled the village are gone, for now. The path ahead is clearer, and Simon knows he has made a significant step in his journey. He retraces his steps through the darkened corridor, avoiding the pressure plates with ease, and makes his way back toward the exit. The sound of his footsteps is now a steady echo, and the once oppressive silence feels lighter, almost welcoming. Eventually, Simon reaches the wooden door he passed through earlier, now fully opened and easy to exit. As he steps through the doorway, the cool night air greets him, and the glow of the Wraith's lantern illuminates the entrance to the cave system. The village, now free from the curse, awaits. The world beyond seems quiet, almost peaceful, as the sun's first light begins to pierce the horizon. Simon can sense that his adventure is far from over. But for now, the weight of his actions feels lighter. As Simon steps into the open air, the last traces of the curse begin to fade from his mind. The shadows that once plagued the village are now mere whispers in the wind. What does Simon do next? Simon makes his way through the village, the air fresh and the light of dawn casting long shadows across the streets. The village, while still bearing the scars of its past, now seems to be at peace, and the oppressive weight of the curse no longer lingers in the atmosphere. He walks with purpose, knowing that he needs rest and time to reflect on his actions. After a short while, he finds a modest at the heart of the village, its wooden sign swaying gently in the morning breeze. The building looks welcoming, with a warm fire visible through the window and the faint hum of quiet conversation from inside. Simon enters, and the innkeeper, a stout woman with a friendly smile, greets him. Ah, a weary traveler, she says. Looking for a room, are you? We've got a few available. A couple of days, you say? That'll be 2 silver pieces per night. Are you staying long? The inn is quiet, with a few other patrons nursing drinks or talking quietly. Simon feels the peace of the village settling around him, but he knows that the journey ahead is still uncertain. What does Simon do next?
I guess I've been muted the entire time. Oh well, that sucks. Oh well, that's it for this game. Hopefully we'll get back with Simon and Ella, our two-player game here in a little bit. But in the meantime, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it'd be great. Help get the word out there. So thanks and have a good day. Bye.